establishment. But they're not running things anymore in this country, and we're run by, and I don't say conservative, I don't say anything, we're run by people with great common sense.
Welcome back to America Decides. Trump administration not defying the courts so much as it's challenging them on many different fronts. It's targeting higher education, and it is trying to jawbone into complicity several very large D.C.-based law firms and firms that are based in New York as well. This raises a question that is now circulating in ways that just simply didn't circulate in the first Trump administration. Is the president driving this country towards something that could be accurately described a constitutional crisis? There's not an absolute answer to that, but for some insight into that conversation, I want to bring in Georgetown University law professor Andrew Schoenholtz. Professor, it's great to have you with us. I don't like the term constitutional crisis because I believe the Constitution is a mechanism by which we resolve things that look like a crisis, but I could be completely wrong. I'd like your interpretation.
Sure. So, generally speaking, when the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution and the government that implements the way in which the Supreme Court has made it clear what the Constitution says, there's no constitutional crisis. But we're in a particular moment now where there's a very excessive assertion of executive power. And that view of the presidency, more like a kingship, if you will, is challenging the other branches of government in terms of their responsibilities. And the courts now are analyzing these issues one by one. You had on your program earlier the discussion of Mr. Abrego Garcia's case. And there we're looking at the government having admitted that it made a mistake in deporting him to a very harsh prison in El Salvador, saying essentially there's nothing we can do about returning him here to the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court has made it very clear. It ordered the government to facilitate Mr. Abrego Garcia's release from custody in El Salvador and to ensure that his case is handled as it would have been if he had not been improperly sent to El Salvador. So the executive branch is now testing to the nth degree what it has to do to comply with the constitutional order that the Supreme Court has issued.
And Professor, it is sometimes oversimplified, the Kilmar Abrego Garcia case is, well, why are you asking all these questions on behalf of someone who's an illegal alien, who's probably aligned with some sort of terrible gang? And the due process questions are one, but the other question, it seems to me, is just because an administration says something, brands you something, in this case, terrorist and gang member, even though they have provided no evidence to back up either assertion, you have questions about, well, what is the power of any government in this country to brand you something and then therefore have carte blanche to exercise whatever authorities it wants to exercise once it has so named you that thing?
And that very good observation, that is precisely what the administration is trying to achieve. That is, its own narrative on this is trying to convince the American people that anytime it brands either a non-citizen or, now we know, even a citizen in this way, it can deport that citizen to another country where they've contracted for imprisonment, as they have in El Salvador. That's a very dangerous point at this moment that the administration has brought us to. And it's a narrative that they would like to sell to the American people. But as you point out, number one, they have not provided that evidence to anyone in the court system, including the Supreme Court. So we don't know more other than that this is somebody who was in the United States for at least 10 years. There is an immigration judge who ordered that the United States not deport him to El Salvador because he proved to that judge that he would be persecuted if he were returned there. And the United States actually says it erroneously deported him. And the normal way in which this would be handled would be for the United States, as the Supreme Court has asked, to facilitate his return to the United States. It made a mistake, and you then facilitate that. And given that the United States contracted with the government of El Salvador to imprison somebody there, it's pretty clear that if the government wanted to comply with the Supreme Court's order, it could.
Very quickly, Professor, it's a reversible error that the government could reverse if it wanted to.
Precisely. It can definitely do that. They've sent him to the only country in the world where they promised by a court order that they would not send him.
Georgetown Law Professor Andrew Schoenholtz, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.